Good morning, guys. Early morning in the workshop here. Still a little dark outside, and we have a good one. I know you guys like the MORAs, and we have a knife sent in by Scott. I'm not up on all my MORA patterns like I used to be, but I'm still a MORA fan. They make real nice knives, but Scott wants this knife fitted out with no micro bevel and a gleaming mirror polished edge, and I know you guys will like that, and those Scandi bevels look so good with that mirror polished edge. Now you notice the blade grind on this knife. We have a MORA back here, but then the knife has, so it's a compound grind. There's a change in angle here where that plane tapers in to give you a nice thin tip. So you have this back here for your heavier bushcraft work, but you still have this nice real thin tip up here for slicing. So these can get a little wonky feeling. I remember the first time I sharpened one of these, it felt strange coming off of that Scandi grind, that flat base, you know, where you really planted. Then it seems like you're going out into to the middle of nowhere and you don't have that support anymore. So it's a little bit strange on your senses, but it's not too bad. You can get used to it as long as you don't pay too much mind to that. Now if you're wondering how to assess for edge damage, get yourself an overhead light and go edge up to the light just like that. And if there is a surface, the light will catch it. If it comes to a perfect apex, there's nothing really there on a visible eye, naked eye level for the light to catch. But if there is a surface at all, a dull spot, look at that, quite dull up around right here. See, we've got some nicks and chips there, consistent with MORA use. Have a look at that. Check all the way along. A couple little nicks back here, mainly up right here, you see right in this portion here. Now the reason we pay close attention and we do that assessment before we start is to see what stone we're going to start with. If I was just doing, let's say this was a brand new knife, which I've had sent to me. Brand spanking new knives right out of the box, and they want a polished blade surface right from the start. So we don't have to do any sharpening. So then I might start with an easier grit stone. Probably my 400 super stone. This is this green guy here, which is a mild, real nice for polishing off some of those striations and getting started on a polish, but not a fast carver for like this here where we have to remove and repair those dents. So what I'm going to start with is this ceramic stone. Just checking flatness here. I'm looking edgewise. We do have a little bit of dishing, but shouldn't be enough to bother us here in this case. We'll wet it down. This stone is a little bit thirsty. But this is a 340 grit stone, and it's a ceramic. Again, it's made by Shapton, but it's the Kuramaku series. And this is the blue black, and the blue black is 340 grit ceramic. Really nice stone. Carves pretty quickly. So we're going to get to work. Now you can start back here, right on your Scandi grind. And I'm having a look here now, the reflection on the stone, to see how much of the stone I'm contacting. This will help analyze the dishing of your stone in this dimension. Watch where your edge is pushing water. If I'm looking in front of my edge here, and this might be hard to see with this with the light angle, but see it right there? I am pushing water all the way along, which is ideal. That means your blade is not scooped, or your stone is not scooped in that dimension. So that means when I pull this off now, we should have work all the way along that bevel. So let's pull this back and have a look. And sure enough, we've worked nice and evenly all the way along that bevel. Perfect. That's perfect scenario. That's what we want. Now, another pointer I'll bring up when you're sharpening a Scandi like this, and especially these MORAs come with a factory micro bevel, and this client doesn't want that back on there, but you want to keep that little bit of throttle, motorcycle throttle rotation, little bit down into the edge, and that'll help you ever so slightly change the plane. So you don't have to remove as much steel from the knife. And to compensate for removing that micro bevel, you're just steepening the angle ever so slightly, the smallest amount. But with a knife like this, that's primarily Scandi grind for most of the knife, all that straight, you can stay on that straight every pass doesn't need to be, I know some guys preach that, a full length pass all the way from tip to heel. You do not need to do that. Focus for a while. Dial this in, and again, that little bit of motorcycle throttle rotation with the wrist, and you'll start just bringing that plane in a little bit. And this is a Scandi, so if you're doing that, it will help you from continuously wobbling back on the, I'll say, on the heel of your bevel. You won't keep falling back. You'll stay nice and tucked in up to the edge. Now once you've worked one side for a little while, let's switch over. Not counting strokes, but you see I've wet down my stone again. We'll switch over to the other side. Put a little bit of work in over there as well. Now of course you're reverse throttling. You're taking off a little of that throttle, which is never as fun as giving more throttle. Another little tip. When you're working a blade like this, you'll start carrying the water with your blade, especially if you have good contact. You see I'm pushing, you see that? I'm pushing that stream right ahead. And sometimes with a bunch of strokes, let's say you do 10 or 15 strokes like this, nice heavy work, you'll end up pulling your water, see it's all bunched up. And what you want to do is every once in a while, just get up over it and pull it back with you. And that will just help keep your stone nice and wet. It'll help draw a little bit of that slurry. You see that? Work it back over the stone again. So we have pretty consistent 340 grit scratches here now from the Kuramaku. Pretty consistent all the way along. We have a burr forming, so that means we've taken in that micro bevel. Now I'm going to start working up near the tip. And how I would work this is exactly like I would any of your folding knives or anything like that. Hold that angle just like you would, and we're just focusing on that area of the knife now. If you want, you can start here on your Scandi because the bevel angle doesn't change. So start on that Scandi. I like to keep my finger up here near the tip. Helps me with a little bit of control. To do this is a lot more unstable. Get one hand, one finger up there near the tip of the knife. Now I am done with this stone, and how I tell that I've worked enough, I want to have removed all the edge damage, re-establish a new plane, and a nice even scratch pattern. So again, go back to our light test, overhead light. There shouldn't be any nicks or scratches. I'm going to go to the 400 Super Stone here now, which is a very inexpensive stone. I know it seems like a small step going from this 340 ceramic to this 400 here, non-ceramic stone. I'm not sure what the compound is of this stone offhand here now, but it's actually a nice step up. This is not as an aggressive of a cutter, so it actually produces a much more blended, like the scratches aren't as harsh. So this might be a nicer coarse stone option for someone just learning. Not quite as aggressive, the results are a little more mild, and it's a slower cutter. But we're going to do the exact same thing again. I'm going to start by working on just my Scandi grind. I'm just planted here now. Notice, just planted. See my stone drying out there? Just move some of that sediment around that's glued on there. We won't get rid of it, that's fine. Again, I'm keeping that pressure, especially when I'm back here on the heel of the knife, on that plane. I'm keeping that pressure rotated into the edge. Not back. You don't want to start raising this grind up the knife. That will happen naturally on its own with future sharpening sessions. As you sharpen, you will sharpen back the knife like this. So you don't need to do that now. Now I'm just about done with this stone. I was going to have a look and see how many of those there striations, the striations I removed. So I've still got a nice hefty burr. We'll take care of that now. Just having a feel around, having a look. Nice even scratch pattern from that 400. Beautiful. So now what I'll do, so clean up this stone. Like that. Now I'll do some full length passes. Nice and controlled, cutting strokes only. And I'm going to start lessening pressure. And I always do this, 1-for-1 strokes. And switching like that and lessening pressure just helps tidy up and remove most of that burr. So you're not left with that dangly burr there that's going to carry over. And we want to be sharpening our edge. We don't want to be refining a burr. Give you a little look at what's going on here now. So you can see the light is almost up by the camera here. There is no sign of any nicks, dents, chips, nothing like that. We have a nice clean scratch pattern, nice clean texture, except for a little dirt on there, all the way along our edge here. Away with the 400, in with the Shapton glass stone 1000, which is a little dirty. Get some of those bigger pieces off of there. The stone is actually pretty clean today compared to what it usually is, but I'll still give it a little scrub down. It's a dressing stone. You need one. If you're whetstone sharpening, you absolutely need one. And repeat the process. Check for flatness. See, watch where you're pushing water. This is a ceramic stone. They carve very quickly, but I'll just fill you in the course of time. Saving here, I'm going to follow the exact same steps, keeping pressure rotated into my edge. I'm going to work here now till I've replaced all of the scratches with 1000 grit scratches. Then I'll finish by single cutting strokes, alternating, 1-for-1, lessening pressure, and then we'll move up a stone. Now we're going to move up to a 2000 grit, and that is, look at this, the famous green brick, the Nanawa Aotoshi. And I'm going to this one. I have higher grit stones. You could go right to a 4000 here. But something interesting about sharpening is that high grit doesn't necessarily mean a good polishing stone. There are certain characteristics about the compound of the stone and the way the stone feels. It's tough to explain unless you've spent some time with it. But there are certain characteristics that make certain stones good polishing stones. And this stone, very velvety texture, you will get what seems like a higher polish, closer to that mirror polish with this stone, than you will on a, than this one, a 4000 Shapton glass stone. This stone will seemingly give you a better polish. And we'll go higher than that. I'll show you a stone after this, one I don't use much at all, but that gives just a wild polish as well. But this is such a great stone. So I'll work through the same steps here. I'll keep it on that flat. Nice bit of pressure here now, and now I'm not working on, I'm kind of concentrating more on the aesthetics. So I'm not driving down into that edge quite as hard because we've already set that plane. So now I'm working on more of the aesthetics, and let's just have a quick look. You can already see the polish we're starting, look at that, starting to take on with this 2000. And I'll work it pretty good. This customer was adamant about getting a polished bevel. So I'll make sure we give a good polished bevel here. Start working up on the toe of the knife now. Now you're about to see a stone, that you don't see a lot on my channel, especially in recent years. And it's not a stone I use much unless I'm polishing. Alright, I just want to take a quick break here. Since we're dealing with razor sharp edges and you just wait to see what's coming up. Oh, creepy sharp. And we're talking about bushcraft knives, so we're talking about being out in the woods, out in the forest, the wilderness, sometimes outside of the cell range, outside of contact with the general population. I want to take this moment to remind you guys, be prepared safety-wise. I want to take this moment now to mention Wild Med Kits, their mystery preparedness box, their subscription box. You've probably heard of these subscription type services before. This is finally one that's worthwhile. First aid and medical gear. Now, I wouldn't recommend this as your step one. If you don't already have a first aid kit and a trunk for your house with some gear in it, if you're not already prepared, if you don't have a kit in the truck, don't start as letting this be your step one. Now, I won't spoil all what's in here. I will tell you there's some really cool goodies in here. I'll let you guys open it for yourselves when you order them. Two of my favorite items in here. First is a wound closure kit, and you might not have a kit like this already. I love how they put together these specialty, like often one-time use kits that you can put in, and it's labeled wound closure kit. You can put this in your kit at home or your go bag for the woods or whatever. And if you have a wound or a tick removal kit or a dental kit or an eye injury kit, you can pull the kit out. It's labeled and has everything in there what you need. Go check out Wild Med Kits, subscribe to the subscription box. But again, first of all, just make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're prepared up here. You know how to handle it. You have the intellect to do so, and you have some of the basic equipment you need. Might I suggest starting with the tourniquet? But it's great. It's great for polishing. I find it a little bit tricky to produce the edge I want, the crispness of edge I want with this stone. But as a polisher, it's so good. That is the Nanawa Superstone 3000 grit. So we're going from a 2000, the Aotoshi, which is a great polisher. And this is very similar. I would say almost the same compound. It's about the same in hardness. It's about the same in speediness of sharpening. But it's upscaled to a 3000 grit. So if you're looking for quality polishing stone, this is a real good choice in my opinion. Let's have a look. And I'm under a real harsh light here now, so that's still going to show some of the facets. A real sharp LED light. Strong LED light. But I want to give you guys an idea of the finish that we have there now. You take this outside right now, and it'll look pretty flawless. Under a natural light, where you're going to have it out around the campfire, this will look gleaming. But under this inside harsh LED, you're still going to see some of those striations. We'll take you outside in a little bit and show you. But now we're going to take that polish up to another level. And that is on this stone, which is, again, just such a good polishing stone. I'm actually a big fan of the Nanawa Superstone line. It's just a great bread and butter type stone. The Chosera, or the professional line it's called now, I believe it's not called the Chosera anymore, are obviously wonderful stones, incredible performers, a joy to use, but they are a lot more temperamental, and they're a bit harder, and they're more brittle, and they require a little bit more care, and if you damage the surface on them, it takes a little bit more work. But these super stones, they cut a little slower. But the user experience is wonderful. The price is wonderful. The performance is wonderful. They're just great stones. Good bread and butter stones, like I said. One last little wet down here. We'll just work off some of that particle we've got on there. I'm just going to give some cutting strokes only, just to refine that edge. Make sure we haven't built up any type of a burr. We shouldn't have. Then we'll take it over to the strap, and that'll really help us refine that polish. There we go. Now I have a freshly compounded strap, finished side, paddle strap. Sell these on my web store if anyone's interested. Not this exact model strap here, but I'm just going to start working the surface of that blade, and this just will Really refine that polish. Refine the edge a little bit more. This thing is going to look so good. And there is that finished MORA edge. Just a lovely, lovely polish. Like I said, just up to that 3000 grit. You saw the steps. I showed pretty much every part of the process. Isn't that beautiful? You sit down around a campfire and see that orange fire glistening off that. What a great knife. And so vicious sharp. Here's one of those kind of glossy like catalog pages. Just torn out. Oh, that is just... You can't imagine how little pressure that is. Just the weight of the knife. See that? Just a light 2-finger hold. This is the type of edge that when you kind of pluck it lightly, touch it like that, it gives you cold shivers, chills up your spine. Because it's almost scary how good an edge like this can perform. Just scary how sharp a knife like this is. Well, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button before you leave. If it's your first time here, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you watch. And I have a whole catalog of footage that if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll like. The biggest way you could help this video is by sharing to your own Instagram, your Facebook, text it to a friend, post it to your Facebook page, whatever, but that is the biggest way you can help me promote, drive audience to this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.